Texas Governor Greg Abbott, the guy is a monster. And in order for Americans to see, for Texans to see, for all to see, it requires good journalism that is willing to tell it like it is. There are two great journalists at MSNBC, Ayman Mohyeldin and Ali Velshi. And they seem to always get it right. I'm going to play a clip from Ayman that he did tonight. And it's important because the way he organized the subject to prove that Governor Abbott is a monster, an unempathetic monster, a necessary piece. Very few would do it at this level with this caliber. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side.
Late Friday night, according to police, Orapesa's neighbor, a man named Wilson Garcia, approached Oropesa to ask him to stop firing his gun so close to Garcia's home. Oropesa refused, but it didn't end there. He then retrieved an AR-15 rifle, went to Garcia's home, and murdered 5 people, including Garcia's wife and 9-year-old son. It is a senseless tragedy and part of a larger pattern of interpersonal disputes turning deadly when guns are involved in this country. It is hard to imagine that horrible situation being any worse, but Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott's response somehow did, in fact, make things even worse. After reports of the shooting had already circulated Saturday, Abbott tweeted this out, a picture of his dog with the caption, "All smiles for the weekend." Now, look, the governor might argue that that tweet was pre-scheduled or he didn't know about the shooting when it was posted. But that in of itself raises the question, was the governor unaware of a horrible mass shooting in his own state? The alternative is somehow even worse, that Greg Abbott did know about the shooting and even after knowing about it, posted that tweet anyway. And when Governor Abbott finally did address the shooting, his response was somehow even worse than the dog picture. Even in the wake of a horrible tragedy, Abbott couldn't help but take the opportunity to demonize Texas's immigrant community, writing in part, quote, "I've announced a $50,000 reward for info on the criminal who killed 5 illegal immigrants Friday." First of all, let's be clear, that is not true. We have learned at least one of the victims was a legal resident of the United States. But honestly, that is irrelevant, as the sheriff representing Cleveland, Texas, made it plain. Listen.
My heart is with this 8-year-old little boy. I don't care if he was here legally. I don't care if he was here illegally. He was in my county. 5 people died in my county, and that is where my heart is.
It didn't matter to him, but it certainly mattered to Governor Abbott. His worldview has been poisoned by right-wing xenophobia, and even in the wake of a tragedy like this, he is unable to see the victims for who they are, human beings, and reduce them to simply their immigration status. And this kind of rhetoric is part of a larger pattern from Governor Abbott, who has arguably displayed a sense of indifference towards gun violence in his state, especially when the victims are people of color. Don't forget the night of the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, when a gunman armed with an AR-15 slaughtered 19 children and 2 teachers. What did Greg Abbott do? He flew. He flew to a fundraiser. Abbott then praised law enforcement for their response to the shooting, a response which we now know was entirely negligent because police said they actually didn't go into the school because they were no match for the AR-15 that they would face. Again, it raises this fundamental question. Was Greg Abbott ignorant of the truth, or was he callously lying to the public about what he knew? It's not just Uvalde. In 2019, after an anti-immigrant domestic terrorist massacred 23 people and injured 23 more in a shooting specifically targeting the Latinx community in El Paso, Texas, folks were quick to point out that Abbott's rhetoric about immigrants only added fuel to the fire, including a mailer that went out the day before the shooting telling voters, quote, if we are going to defend Texas, we'll need to take matters into our own hands. And less than 3 weeks after the deadly anti-immigrant hate crime, he was back at it again, lambasting undocumented immigrants on social media. In the years since the El Paso massacre, Governor Greg Abbott and Texas Republicans have only made it easier to carry guns in Texas, not harder, and they did so with a controversial 2021 law allowing most residents to open carry a handgun without a permit. One Texas sheriff told the New York Times, quote, it seems like now there's been a tipping point where just everybody is armed. But even amid an epidemic of gun violence in his state, we have no choice but to assume that everybody being armed is exactly what Governor Abbott wants.
Now, there are 5 dead people in a family. And you're going to, as a governor who should show empathy, you are going to talk about this in a tweet, etc. That tweet should show compassion. That tweet should have nothing about any kind of political mumbo jumbo that may be going on right now, any kind of political polarizing things that are going on right now. Of course, you are the one who creates most of the polarization in Texas. You're the one who creates most of the hate in Texas, Governor Abbott. But it is shameful what this guy did. And Ayman Mohyeldin did an excellent job in pointing that out. Again, a lot of times, mainstream media journalism, because of the games they must play, because of who their advertisers are, etc., makes one wonder often. But finding a way to break through, something that we always find guys like Ali Velshi and Ayman Mohyeldin and others are able to accomplish. Very good job. But again, Greg Abbott is a monster. We have elected a monster that is not only creating dissension among people, he's not only killing his people by refusing the Medicaid expansion to affordable care, making sure that some Texans die because they have no healthcare that is available and paid for already, throwing guns on the market as anyone who has a gun, wants a gun, can get it, which means anybody who's having a bad day may just shoot up in the sky, like something that happened in Texarkana a few days ago when somebody just decided to shoot up in the air and a bullet strikes somebody on the field. When somebody gets mad, road rage, and they would normally show a finger or something, but because they have a gun next to them, they're irate. They're not thinking straight. That guy supposedly who killed 5 people was drunk. They're not thinking straight, but he has a gun available. This is shameful. And the governor shows that he is incapable of displaying any sort of humanity. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.